Hello, welcome to Crypto CJ's Trade of the Day. This is the Monday night Zoom edition. And as you can see from my background, I got Elmer Fudd, FUD, fear, uncertainty. I forgot the D stands for, doubt. Yeah, doubt, despair, discouragement, whatever. There's a lot of FUD flying around this weekend. There was the Elon Musk tweet about Bitcoin and its electricity consumption, as if we didn't know that. Quick aside on that, if you're a Bitcoin miner and you're plugging your rigs into retail power, you're not going to make any money. So, Bitcoin miners are cognizant of that, and they either go where the energy is inexpensive, renewable, or both. So I know BitBoy and Crypto Banter and some of the channels I watch have dealt with that or are going to this week talk about disputing that assertion of Elon Musk and the Bitcoin draining draining the universe of power is absurd. I mean, crypto uses a fraction of what Wall Street uses, so that may have played a role in the big drop we had in Bitcoin over the weekend and the last week. There were some technical indicators showing that this was a possibility. If you're a CryptNation lifer, the lifer call on Thursday, Aaron Malone or Pizza Mine talked about that. They also put out a video on the CryptNation Facebook group talking about the current market condition. I highly recommend it. It's about 20 minutes long. And it just talks about how these kind of things are normal in a bull run. There's usually a 20 to 30% correction, and then 40 to 50% pump, and then another one, and so on. And if you can't take it, anyway, it's it's just part of the gig, as my musician father would say. But anyway, so for now, let's look at Bitcoin. And let's see, where was it? Okay, my hour chart should be up. Can everybody see that? Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes.
All right, good. All right, so this is Bitcoin in the last week on the hour chart. I've blocked it out here since 9 a.m. on the 10th to about the same time today. We've had a 28.12% drop. A lot of the factors I just mentioned has something to do with this. Just maybe it's your basic correction. A lot of things have piled on Bitcoin over the last couple of weeks, trying to drag it down. One thing that Bryce and Aaron mentioned in the call today I thought was really good was, those of us who love crypto, who are on this call, we're in a revolution. In a revolution, it can get bloody. It's a contact sport. So we can't go through any length of time without some serious setbacks, some hits and some pain. So we're going through the pain right now, and ideally in the next week or two we'll have a recovery and be back on the way to those 10, 20, 30% gains that we love so much. So anyway, with that in mind, we are in the most volatile financial asset that probably exists in cryptocurrencies. It's what we love about it. It's what we hate about it sometimes. So, but what do we do? I mean, how do we trade this market? Are we at the bottom? I mean, I don't really know. I'm gonna go to my day chart here on Bitcoin. And these are my Fibonacci retracement values and lines. Right now we're in the sweet spot, the 5.0 to the 618. And I'll draw one of these real quick. A lot of traders use this Fibonacci retracement tool. It's advanced. I did do a video on it. I did a 12-minute video on how to do this. To at least give the broad strokes about it. I spent several weeks, couple months learning how to do it. And what we're looking for is when something hits an all-time high, where is it likely to go back and bounce up from? And this blue rectangle that I've drawn is the 0.5 to the 0.618. But it's more of an art than a science, because, I started my Fibonacci here in January. Another trader might start his or hers, over here in October and have different values than this. I just wanted to start most of my fibs from 2021 in the year 2021. So that's why I use this starting point here, this dip in January. So, and then these blue lines here are, the last lines of defense before we hit the bottom. So I suspect our trading range is going to be around here for the next several days. Everyone's got predictions, none of them, yours is probably as valid as mine. So this is the range I see for Bitcoin. And with that in mind, on my day trades, I'm going in at probably less than half of my usual starting amount, as far as the crypto I have at risk. Patrick and I were talking earlier, you have to be prepared to ladder buy, and they talk about laddering in on swing trades, on longer term trades. Well, we use ladder buying as a tool to, recover or save, or even sometimes make even more profit on day trades as well. So it's good to try to keep some of your cash available for that. The problem is when you have, Bitcoin sort of stair stepping down like this, you think you're making a dip, you're making a dip trade, you're following the fundamentals, and it dips again. Next thing you know, you're kind of low on money. I mean, I'm down to about 20% of my balance for day trading. Everything else is involved in trades. Most of those are ladder buys already. So that's what we call getting stuck sometimes. Even on a day trade, you might be in it for a week or two. If you believe in that project and in that trade, and you think it'll come back. When one of my day trades gets messed up by a Bitcoin drop, and it's a coin I've traded before and the fundamentals are good, then I'll usually stay in that trade. If the volume drops, that's different. I'll often sell that and take a loss. So anyway, with that in mind, with the day trades I'm considering and actually made today, I made a couple. I just used less money than usual, and I've got, some more to ladder buy if I need to. So any questions about Bitcoin and our approach before I start going over the signals we're getting from Altcoin Alert?
Yeah, I mentioned this in the chat. What would you do for a starting point for Fibonacci retracement if the dip occurred, or if you wanted to measure it from something occurred closer to the beginning of 2021? Would you use some back history in 2020 instead of just starting at the beginning of the year?
Well, maybe I didn't explain it very well. I went with this January 22nd date because it was the first dip in the year, first significant one before, the Bitcoin started pumping up. So that's why I chose this particular area. But like I said, if you want to go before that, and I've got some charts that aren't as volatile as Bitcoin, where I did start my fib, into 2020. Or are you asking me if I should look for a place in 2020?
Well, for example, if the dip started, in January or February, and you didn't have as long of a period from the beginning of the year to get a good point of reference for the retracement, would you go back like 6 months at least?
Yes. Okay. I understand your question better now. Okay. So like, where do I start if it's January of this year? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
All right. So in that scenario, I'd probably start back here. I'd look for the fibs I had in 2020, I'd go back 4 to 6 months and look for a dip and start there. So for example, I might start at this area right about here. And you don't have to be perfect. If If you're starting here and click here, and then this is my high, and then my fib looks like this. We don't have that information. And
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Any other questions on Bitcoin before we move on? I just won't go away. All right, let's go to Altcoin Alert. And this hasn't changed. Well, this one's new. Darwinia Network. I don't know that one, but a couple of these I was looking at this morning. Actually, RLC I bought. So let's look at that. I had a really nice trade with this on Friday. I did a video on it. And here's what I was looking at this morning, this dip sequence here. It doesn't have the big bubble I would usually like to see. Those of you who've seen the 1, 2, 3 dip video I send in my initial, well, actually pretty much all my emails for people who aren't familiar with day trading. When we're looking, ideally when we're getting a dip sequence, it's got this big bubble or something like this. So here I've got kind of a smaller bubble. There's a little bit of a squeeze and then it bubbles out. And then this is what I'm looking at this morning. I was up early, so I was looking at this in the 7 o'clock hour. I saw one dip and then a bounce. And I thought, I think I'm going to sell or I think I set an alert for 7.4 and I got in like right around here. Yeah, I wanted to see some recovery. That's right. That's how I handled it. Sorry about that. So I got in here and it went up nicely to the top of the Bollinger Band, but I had set my sell order a little bit above that. So I didn't get out and now it's going down again. So that's a little frustrating, but that happens sometimes. So whenever I have an AA trade, I'm looking for 2 scenarios. I got a few new people on here today, so I want to go over those. I'm looking for a dip sequence, 3 dips. 1, 2, 3. These aren't well defined, or I'm looking for something that's got candle action trending up, not on the SMA line. This is sort of right in the middle. This is no man's land. So I want to see a dip with trending action coming up, or something like this. It's already above the SMA line. I want to catch a trend. So one of those 2 scenarios is what I'm looking for with my AA trades. The software I usually use to catch trends. So I don't do a lot of dips off this, but sometimes I do. So anyway, I like this RLC. It's let's make this a little bigger. Oh, that's not what I want.
CJ, do you base your profit margin on the amount of volume or on the coin at all, or do you just have a standard?
Oh, I don't look at any coin with less than 10 million in volume. So, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this on the next coin they have. It's called AION because it was right on the cusp of that volume. And I didn't take it, and I would have had a nice trade. But anyway, let me finish RLC and then we'll talk about that one. So here we've got a couple dips trying to break out, and then it's dipping again. So what I might do in this situation is, if this were new, if I weren't in it already, either set an alert down here, try to catch a low buy, or keep an eye on it from time to time, and then try to catch it above the SMA line for a breakout. So, and of course, before I do any of that, I'm going to look at Bitcoin to see what it's doing. It has pumped up now a little bit over 44,000. I've got another screen over here. Actually, I can look at, yeah, I don't think we need these anymore. Yeah, 5-minute chart. So Bitcoin has been trending up, the last 40, 50 minutes. So this is usually, if Bitcoin's doing this, I feel good about taking pretty much any altcoin trade. I mean, BTC is not going to prevent me from taking an altcoin trade. So I'm going to look at the candle action here and see where I want to get in. We're a little late to this one. I might try to catch it after the SMA line. If it dips again, that would be a 1, 2, sort of in a third dip now, but we're late. We want to catch a third dip around here. Maybe set a low buy order in this vicinity and then pick it up that way. I'm spending too much time on this. So anyway, any questions on RLC before we look at some other altcoin alert suggestions?
Yeah, I had a quick question, CJ.
Okay.
So at 1330 and 130 today, we see that first dip, and then you see a second dip after that, or would that be considered one dip between 130 and 3?
All right, right here.
Yeah.
All right, it's barely a dip. It's not a dip until it punctures the low Bollinger Band, and so this one just does break through.
All right.
And then it's still a dip because it's not hit the SMA line. So even though it goes up, it comes down and dips again. So that's your second dip. And then it does make it back barely to the Bollinger Band, and that's our third dip, and then maybe a fourth dip and a fifth one. But since it's not a real good setup, to be honest, because it's starting to squeeze in here and then it bubbles out again. So I want to see if I can find a really good example. 1, 2, that's really only 2 dips. I don't have a great example of a 1, 2, 3 dip in this, and this particular coin at the moment, but if I find one in one of the other coins we look at, I'll point it out. And sometimes when Bitcoin's twitchy, you want that perfect setup. And if it's a little garbled like this, maybe you just don't take the trade. But since we do have a strong altcoin alert score, 99.1, that might push you over the edge to take the trade, even if the setup isn't perfect. Just keep in mind the other things I talked about. Go in with a small purchase and be ready to ladder buy if it goes against you. So, and if you don't want to ladder buy, set your stop loss probably somewhere below support. Some support here. I don't use stop loss as much on spot trades, so I'm not the best person to talk about it, but I know a lot of the other most traders do. All right, any other questions on RLC? Okay, so the other one that I liked was AION. I've traded this coin before, but it's been a long time. So I actually updated my fibs on this. Usually the first thing I do is check the day chart to see the overall picture of the coin. And most of them look like this now. They've had a high, in April or May, and they're coming down off that. This one's lost about half of its value since it's high on May 8th. So what I'm looking for is, does it have room to move? I don't like, it's not my favorite thing to do to trade something that's already at an all-time high. I've done it before and showed you guys the fib extender. And that's how I usually evaluate those types of trades, but not really relevant to this scenario. So anyway, plenty of room to move. I might look at the 1 hour to get something a little bit more recent. Mostly lower highs, but again, that's pretty much following Bitcoin. And then we'll go to the 5-minute chart and see if there's a setup that we like. And I know what we all want from Altcoin Alert. We want to see a high AA score and then just buy it. And unfortunately, You can do that, might even have some success with it, but it's helpful if you have some technical knowledge like this to get a good entry point, or at least increase your odds of a good trade. So AION is currently exactly where I do not want it to be. We're sitting right on the SMA line. So, is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Not sure. I mean, I do have a MACD cross down here. So when this blue line is crossing the orange, that's usually a bullish sign, but we don't make trades on the MACD alone. We look at other indicators too. This is the RSI. It's mostly trending up, but it's hooking down a little bit. The MACD and RSI are both lagging indicators. The most current are candles. So we've got 5 candles generally trending up. 3 of them are red. So that tells me, I don't know if that's a real strong pump up yet. I would want to catch this in either in a dip sequence, something like this, or above the SMA line with strong candle action, something like this. So unfortunately, we have neither of those situations now. If I'm trying to catch something in a dip trade, you guys have heard me talk about setting alerts on the RSI, usually on the 15-minute chart. And what I find is that if something drops below 30, it usually has a pretty good chance to go up, 5% and higher. For example, this isn't a great example, but on the 15th at midnight, this coin hit the RSI 30, and it's an 11%. Probably wouldn't have gone that high. Probably would have gone right here, this resistance here in the 7% area, and it would have been out of that trade, about a day later with 6.7%. So that's a good day trade. So with that in mind, I think I will go ahead and set an RSI alert. I'm going to right click on the RSI. It's going to give me the option here on TradingView to add an alert. I'm going to change this to 30. And down here, I'm just going to say dip trade. Create. So if this drops into this zone, I will evaluate it then too. I won't just go ahead and buy it. I'll see if I've got my 3 dips, and or are the MACD or the RSI crossing are looking favorable. It's helpful to have multiple confirmations of a trade. Do I have the candle action I want? Do I have the technical indicators I want? And I have Altcoin Alert telling me that there's a good chance, an 85.8% chance that this coin's going to go up 3% or higher in the next 24 to 48 hours. If all those things come into play, that's a trade I'm probably going to take. So, okay, any questions on AION before I probably look at one more Altcoin Alert trade?
CJ, could I just ask, back up a few minutes because I got kicked off by lack of electricity.
Bummer.
I just wanted to ask you a quick question about the dip sequence. Last week, I noticed that on the 5-minute, a lot of the coins I was looking at didn't have the fat bubble, the expansion after the dip.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just noticed that you're a little bit not very regimented in how you handle that situation as well. Is that something that I don't really have to look for? Just even a slight or even a flat line be okay to trade on based on other, as long as other things line.
Yeah, ideally we do have a bubble. That's the best dip trade is a bubble, because that's usually showing momentum. If it's kind of squeezier visually, you can measure the difference between the top and the bottom of the Bollinger Band. Like right here, I've got 4.78%. If you measure those and it's like 8-10%, then you can probably feel pretty good about making that dip trade. If it's 2, 3, 4%, then you're in a squeeze situation, and that can go either way. So, you know, iCoinPro is where I learned, another place too, about the 1, 2, 3 dip, and they're pretty adamant about waiting for the bubble. You know, and in a bull market, you can bend the rules a little bit, but just bear in mind you're taking on more risk when you do it. So you can go ahead and make that trade in that situation when it's kind of squeezy, but you see the 3 dips. But just know, a lot of times, like we kind of have that here, and there's just, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, we get 5 dips before it gets back to the SMA line. So if you are going to do, you know, a dip sequence that looks kind of squeezy, you might want to wait for a 4th or 5th dip. Might be the way to go on that. I just made that up. So, but that makes sense to me. Or, you know, you can just wait for the perfect setup. I like to trade, and I trade too much. So, you know, Justin Clark of iCoinPro makes a few trades a day. That's all he does. You know, maybe 2 or 3 or 4, waits for the perfect setup, you know, and he's got the big house in Florida. So anyway, maybe that's the way to go. I'm more aggressive than that. You know, you also have to trade to some degree to your personality, what you feel good about. So, yeah, on those squeezier type dip sequences, I think it's a good idea to wait for a 4th or 5th, or just make a low buy order. You can add this 3rd standard deviation on your Bollinger Band. I think I showed this a week or 2 ago. Click on indicators, go to Bollinger. Well, it's the same way you set them up the first time. And then you right click on it, go to settings, and then standard deviation. It's usually 2, but you just click on it, just make it 3. So anyway. All right, any other questions on AION or dip trades before we'll look at one more from Altcoin Alert.
Yeah, thanks.
Quick question, CJ, if that's okay.
Sure, that's why we're here. Ask questions.
Basically, I was just having a quick look at Bitcoin on the 4-hour chart, and it looks to me it's Bitcoin US dollar, and it looks like a classic squeeze and then 1, 2, 3 dip, and it looks like it's set to pop, like just by that's what I see. But maybe you could just have a quick share a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah, you can use these strategies on longer time frames. They just don't show up that often. So you can use a 1, 2, 3 dip on an hour chart or a 4-hour chart, and there's a lot of indicators here telling me that this should move up. For one, this fib range that I talked about earlier, and we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 kind of 5 dips. So, you know, that's a bullish sign. We've got the MACD about to cross. It hasn't yet. And then the RSI pointing up. So, and you know, the RSI is hovering down here in the oversold territory. If it goes below 30, that's considered oversold. And it doesn't happen real often on a 4-hour chart for Bitcoin, but it has a few times lately, just because it's, well, everything we talked about earlier. So yeah, you can use these strategies on longer time frames if you want. And then, you know, if you're a swing trader or more of a holder, you buy it here at 44-ish. I'd probably want to see another candle going up. You know, you got resistance here, 49.2. You know, some of these we know are just psychological. You're gonna have resistance around 50. You know, and then a little bit more here, just a little below 51, and then you can maybe even ride this all the way up here to 59. I almost never spot trade Bitcoin. I'm in
Yeah.
Bitcoin
No.
up now, the leverage token on Binance.
Cool. Thanks, CJ. Yeah, I guess the main reason why I asked is because if Bitcoin's due for a big pop of like 15% up, then that, I guess that opens the door for a lot of altcoin trades as well. I guess that was my
It
thinking.
does. And this Bitcoin drop has been kind of interesting because some of the altcoins have done well, even prospered. So
True.
some of the blue
ADA's been holding
chippers,
its own, and yeah,
right? ADA,
a few others.
SOL, KSM, a few others. And cool, my Bitcoin app's doing well. So I'm just gonna leave that one alone for a while if I can.
Cool. Thanks, CJ.
Thank you. All right, so let's see, Bitcoin on the 4-hour, back to the 5-minute. And do we have, no, nothing in the chat. So I'm gonna move on to one more Altcoin Alert coin.
Can I ask you a quick general question before you get the next coin?
Sure.
You're talking about different time frames there. Are you familiar with that book that Bryce has recommended a couple of times by, I think it's by Shannon? It's about technical trading on different time frames.
I have not actually downloaded a different book, but that wasn't the one.
He's mentioned it 2 or 3 times, and I looked it up, and I haven't ordered it, but it's like a $70 book. But of course, you'd make $70 in a heartbeat if he finds it. But the idea that it's on different time frames is sort of tied to what you were just saying about the 4-hour chart and stuff.
Yeah, I use the Fibonacci's on the day and the 4-hour and occasionally on the 1-hour, but I don't look, the thing I just showed Colm, I don't really look at necessarily for, maybe I should though, looking for a 1, 2, 3 dip on the 4-hour chart.
Okay. Well, if I find any more about it, I'll tell you. I might get that, but.
All right, it's good. It's a good question.
Next coin.
All right, next coin. Let's see. I wanted to look at. I was going to look at ENJ, but it dropped quite a bit off the list. Well, here's our good friend Doge. I've got that one up already. 48, huh? All right, so I don't know if I actually went ahead and treated this like a regular coin. So I did my fibs on it and everything, and I probably need to update it because it's gone a little bit above where I had it, but this will work for our purposes. So anyway, the high for this is in the 70s or way below that, so we know we have plenty of room to move. On the 1-hour, it's been mostly bouncing between 59 and low 40s. So we've got a good AA score, and it's sitting right on the SMA line where I hate to see it. So same as what we just went over with AION, you can set an alert on here and wait for a dip trade. You can do an alert on the 5 or the 15-minute RSI, try to catch it there. Here's a pretty good example of, I was using the 5-minute RSIs earlier in the year and had some success with them. They were going off so much that it just annoyed me. So, and I get better quality out of the 15-minute. I also have a few on the hour charts, but they don't go off very often. So the 15-minute seems to be a good, good compromise on that. I might try the 30-minute chart too. So, but anyway, on the 5-minute chart, if this RSI alert goes off, you've got a 1, 2, it goes off on the 3rd dip, sweet. You buy it right away. To the SMA line, it's 4%. You'd be out, 4 hours later, just under 4%. That's a good day trade. If you're a little more ambitious, there's some resistance here at 50 cents. You'd still be in that trade, but you'd be pretty close to getting out here. well, no, actually, yeah, the resistance was right about here. I probably would have seen the resistance slightly above 50% and put my sell order slightly below 50 cents, thinking that's sort of a psychological barrier for traders. So I would have set my alert or my exit right about here, and I would have been out, 5 hours later with right around 5%. So that's a good day trade. Now, whether Doge has any intrinsic value or not as a crypto, probably not, the meme coin, but it's had a wild ride. And some of my friends have done really well with this. I've just been in and out of it a couple times. I dabbled with leverage on it and didn't do very well. So I think I'll stick to just the spot trades on this coin when it comes up on Altcoin Alert. So any questions on this before we move over to iCoinPro? Okay. All right. iCoinPro has been interesting because I looked at the RSI SPY this morning. And most of the coins have gone up since then, but if I get a 1 hour RSI below 30, that's a coin I want to look at. That's usually a pretty good potential for a dip trade. If it's down 30 or below on the 1 hour and the 4 hour, that's gold. If the 1 hour is below 30 and the 4 hours close, say between 30 and 40, that's another one I'll look at too. So, but we don't have really anything below 30 at the moment. And I don't use this tool to trade Bitcoin pairs. So there's really nothing here we can use. So let's go to the Buddy Coin Crawler. And a quick recap on this. I sort this on the average low to the SMA line. So this column here will give me the 24-hour low and to its distance to the SMA line, what that percentage is. I'm looking for 5% or higher. And we've got something with some potential here. Venus, I've traded this coin before with some success, so we'll look at that one. And we'll look at Matic too. This one's gone crazy the last month or two. The New Mare is one I've traded once or twice this year. This one I haven't heard of. It's probably a new coin. So I don't trade those very often unless I can get it, through an Altcoin Alert SigDev. So let's go to the Venus chart. The 5-minute chart will come up off that drop down menu you just saw, and it's looking kind of squeezy. But I looked at this earlier today, and even though it looks like a squeeze, there's over 7% between the two Bollinger Bands. Sometimes it'll look like a squeeze because there's a big move here, and then the software has to compensate to get the whole thing in on the screen. And then if you go over here, then it bows out quite a bit more. So, this is more the kind of thing we're used to seeing with a 7 to 8% difference in the lower and the upper Bollinger Band. So anyway, we're a little, we don't have good luck on this either because it's sitting on the SMA line. With this particular tool, though, I'm usually looking for a dip trade, not really a trend trade. So I would probably, actually, I think I did it already. Yeah, I already set an alert on the 15-minute RSI to let me know if this drops. And then I would make a dip trade out of that. But at this point, there's nothing we can really do. What we really want is something like this. 1, 2. This is kind of interesting because it's just one big dip and a second one, and then now what? So this is sometimes where I fudge a little. I don't wait for a third dip. I wait to see if the MACD is going to cross, if the RSI is going to pump up. And if I get some positive candle action, I might get in this trade right here. try to ride it to the SMA line. It's 10%. A little bit of resistance here. But if I go to the SMA line, you know, I'm still in that trade because that hasn't gotten back there yet. So that's a trade I'd probably be in for, you know, a day or so, or I'd ladder buy, you know. See if I bought this here. On the MACD cross. Drops down to here, 15%. I usually ladder buy in the 5 to 15, well, closer to 10% on a spot trade, and then usually 10 to 15% drop on a leveraged token trade. But it's a little nerve-wracking to see your trade go down that much. But with ladder buying, and you have 2 positions and you average them out, instead of trying to get back to the SMA line, now you only have to get back a little over halfway to your original purchase. So if I ladder bought here, I'd probably look to get back right about here, and that ladder buy would have been out, you know, right around midnight, and probably made, you know, 1 to 3%. And that's way better than a loss. So it's kind of hard to talk about ladder buying without, you know, putting all the, if you've seen my videos on the subject, I try to show where I made the decisions and what the percentages were and that kind of thing. So, but the ladder buying is something that I believe in, and that works probably 80 to 90% of the time to when a trade goes against you right away. So, all right. Any other questions on XVS before we move on to another coin? Let's see, Matic was on that list. Swing trades. So let's look at Matic. All right, on the day chart, we see, I haven't updated my fibs in a long time. And the high is 188, pretty close to $2, and it's dropped down to, you know, 172. So it hasn't had a huge drop due to the Bitcoin drop. And the 1 hour chart shows us that it's pumped up nicely last couple days, and it's mostly going sideways since then. And unfortunately, we're right at, well, it's gone a little bit above the SMA line. But again, with what I'm seeing in iCoinPro, I'm looking for dip trades, and we're not in a dip sequence here with Matic. And Matic hasn't even hit the RSI oversold on the 5-minute chart in quite a while. So nudged it here, you know, back, you know, a couple days ago. So had I bought that, waited for the dip, bought it, say around here, you know, SMA line here, might have been aggressive and gone to here with 12%. Would have been out in 3 or 4 hours on Matic. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and set an RSI alert on Matic on the 5-minute chart, just because it's been so strong lately. So add an alert, change it to 30. All right. So now I've got my alert, and if Matic drops down, I'll be good to go. At least let me know that it's in a dip sequence if I'm, you know, watching TV or something tonight, and I'll check it out and look for a good entry point. So Any questions on Matic or the RSI alert strategy? Okay, let's look at one more. iCoinPro, CoinNumer. Yeah, and again, as a reminder, here's where the daily volume is. You know, so these are all, you know, all have great volume. I'm looking for 10 million or more. And let's look at Numer. Okay, the last day we hit an all-time high. It's like yesterday. 98. And it's dropped about a third down to 66. That's some volatility there. Yeah, pumped up like this, and I don't know, this one concerns me a bit. Just catch something like this though. That would be pretty cool. And let's look at the 15-minute chart on its RSI alerts. It hasn't had many on the 15. Let's look at the 5. All right, so the last RSI alert that went off was right here. 8:55 this morning. It did pump after that pretty well. So that is kind of interesting. I'm not sure where I would have gotten in here. This is sort of like that long squeeze dip that we were talking about earlier. I probably would have gotten in maybe here. Use this as resistance. So that would have been nice for about 8 or 9% in less than an hour. But yeah, they don't always play out that way. But you know, these RSI alerts can really be lucrative when you find a good entry point. So let's do it. You know, just because you set one doesn't mean you have to do it. Oh, day trade, that's not very helpful. All right. Any other
So,
questions
CJ,
on iCoinPro in this scenario?
CJ, would you think you would not have gotten in at that little bump that's like halfway down the slide? Just a little bit beyond halfway, that one?
That one?
Yeah. Wouldn't, because look, the RSI is real low.
Yeah, you're right. I went with this one because it was more recent, but yeah, let's say, you know,
if you didn't know what was to the right of that, one.
If let's say it's well, before I go to bed, let's say it's last night around around 11 o'clock.
Okay.
You know, I see what I see a nice value in that, you know, listing here in the, you know, 7 to 10% range, and I set an alert like that.
Right.
Then that one would have gone off, and I would have seen this and gone, okay, it's dipping. There's multiple breaks, but it's kind of squeezy. I probably would have measured it and seen that, you know, it's 14%, so it's really not a squeeze at all. It's just a function of how it looks on the screen. So with that in mind, I probably would have gotten in around here somewhere. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, maybe wait for a 5th dip. The 5th dip never happened. So yeah, that's something I'm going to have to think about. When it looks like a squeeze and there's multiple breaks of the Bollinger Band, you know, do I want to get in on the 3rd dip? Maybe not. You know, wait for the 4th or 5th dip when it's not a big bubble. And then, yeah, I would have caught this.
You've done right there when the alarm went off, right where the line is now. Your RSI is low.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the alert goes off
right there.
bright and early in the morning. Yeah, I would have jumped on this.
I think I would have jumped on it.
Yeah.
But if I had
I
any
might have
cash.
waited for, 1 or 2 candles, maybe
Right.
3, and got
That's
in
looking good right there.
right about here.
Mhm.
I'd probably still be in it though. I would have tried to get up here. Maybe not 17%, but here's some more resistance here. Yeah, probably would have gone right about here. That's 75.3, and I'd still be in it. So
Yeah, that's a tough one with a big long slide like that. It doesn't really resolve one way or the other.
yeah, and
I think. I don't know. It looks unusual to me.
it does look a little odd. Usually they break through.
Mm.
And then, instead of going for 5 to 10%, which is usually what I try to do on dip trades, I try to get, closer to double digits. And then on AA trend trades, I'm usually looking for like right around 5%. So, I'm not rigid on those numbers. I look at resistance. If I see 10 candles in a row at a certain level, I know that's, it's going to be hard to punch through that. So I'm going to use that. If I only see 2 or 3 candles in a certain area, that's less convincing. Like this is a good example of resistance here. This, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 candles right around the 68 point, right around the 68 level. So that's a good example of resistance that we like to use to determine an exit point. I see a lot on the Slack group for Altcoin Alert saying, where do I get out? I don't know where to go. And at least to me, these, with experience, you'll see these resistance points, and a lot of people draw lines on their charts. I have enough lines cluttering up my charts. I don't want any more. But yeah, Justin Clark of iCoinPro has hundreds of lines on his charts. He would put a line on this, like right here, and he has lines from 3 years ago. So, but like Bryce says, Price has memory, so it's not a bad idea if you don't mind the clutter. But here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's 8 candles showing us support, and then a couple more right around it that are pretty close. So support and resistance are really helpful in determining entry and exit points. I need to use support more in getting into coins, and I've been doing that a little bit more. But like let's say, actually I did that on the RLC trade from earlier. I don't have a good example of it, but let's say I was considering getting in this now. I've got, it's not perfect, but here's a touch here, a couple close touches, then a bunch of them here. So this, this vicinity here might be where I'd want to get in, on an altcoin alert trade, trying to catch it back up to the SMA line. So anyway, all right, well, that's all I have for Altcoin Alert and iCoinPro. I'm gonna go through the chat now and see if anybody has any questions here. We talked about those. Thanks for the shout out, Jim. And John posted the title of Bryce's book recommendation, Technical Analysis Using Multiple Time Frames by Brian Shannon. So if you want to go beyond day trading and do swing trading and longer term trading, that might be a good book to check out. So Patrick is asking about a book that explains how the coins are defined and connected and why they have any value at all. Well, I think that book would be the Crypto Revolution would be one. I don't know if you read that one, Patrick, but they talk about that to some degree in there.
No, I mean, why some exchanges require gas? Why is Ethereum going up so much? And DOGE coin going flat. Get a better understanding.
I don't know if that's something that would be covered in a book that specifically.
Books take an awful long time to get put together and printed. I think
crypto
information gets out of date as fast as you can read it on the internet.
Yeah, there's only one on Amazon.
Okay. But why does crypto have value? Because people ask me that. Well, it has value the same reason any money has value. It's because we say it does.
Because I say so.
Right. Because we as a group of people agree that this volatile electronic asset has value. So, and that's pretty much the way our currency works too. We can talk all day about inflated currency and how it's created electronically anymore and all that. But anyway, so, but yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that.
Well, we should all keep our ears open, and if we hear of anything that sounds like what Patrick's asking for, we can share it with each other.
I have found a couple, I can't remember their names, but there's some video or some documentaries on Amazon, quite a few about Bitcoin and crypto. So they talk about that kind of thing in those, those documentaries. So that might be a source for that kind of information. All right, Dr. Drew's asking me, do I do any live trading groups? Not yet. This is the closest thing I do to a live trading group, and I go through, actual scenarios like I just did. And if there's a trade I like, I'll make it. I've got my Binance window open here, and I'll make a trade if I like what I see. So, but to do like a daily trading group, I don't quite feel comfortable doing that. Plus, it does wander into the area of financial advice and legal issues. So that's no fun.
TJ, I've got a question.
Okay.
Do you have a different approach or strategy for like a major altcoin, like a blue chip like BCH or even ETH? Do you approach it differently than a much smaller coin?
Yes, those are coins I'm more likely to hold for a long period of time. I do hold Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin in a wallet. And then I have, swing trades and Bitcoin pairs and Ethereum pairs on blue chips. But, this, the emphasis on these Monday night Zooms has always been on day trading. So I don't talk about those on this show, but yeah, if you want to talk about, longer term positions, we can do that afterwards. But
and I don't necessarily mean longer term, but taking advantage of those opportunities, because I've seen like BCH tends to take pops, pretty big ones. And if you use a different strategy for that, do you look for different triggers or because it's such a big volume, high traded coin?
When I take those coins into consideration, I almost always use a leverage token. And that's going to be a 3x leverage token on FTX or a 2 to 3x leverage token on Binance. And I trade, one of my favorites is ETH Bull on FTX. I trade that a lot. VET Bull on FTX, and today I bought BTC up on Binance. When I saw that Bitcoin was towards the bottom of that blue zone I showed you, it looks a little, and so it's working its way up. So I'm in profit on that. So, and I do that because those larger caps don't move as much as the smaller ones, and I want more movement. But obviously, it's riskier. If I'm wrong about that, then I can get 20 to 30% down pretty quickly. So it's not something I recommend for new people. After you've day traded for 6 months to a year, and you're consistently, you're making 80 to 90% of your trades correctly, then you might want to consider doing some leverage tokens. if you can take the risk. So,
Yeah, thank you.
all right, welcome.
The blue chip coins hardly ever show up on Altcoin Alert, right? Like the top 5 that are up there. I mean, it's usually the smaller coins have more room to run and get the 80 and 90 scores rather than
Yep.
Bitcoin might be 50 or 60 most of the time.
Yeah,
I don't know that I've seen it.
I've only seen Bitcoin or Ethereum in there a couple times this year. So
Yeah, you look at it more than I do.
yeah, it's true.
Always,
I have it
I'm
open all
always,
day. But
yeah, I'm always thinking, well, maybe I just missed it. But so these strategies that you're using on Altcoin Alert, and the other, I don't belong to the iCoinPro one, so but these things seem to mesh with the lower cap coins, the smaller ones that are ready to run against the blue chips.
yeah, I'd agree with that. Some of these I look on, or they're in, they're on exchanges I don't use, and I'm on most of the large ones, or the volumes below 10 million. So I looked at Tel, and I haven't looked at Ring, but Tel's on like KuCoin or something like that, and I'm on that, but I don't have any money on it, so I wasn't motivated enough to move money on it to buy that. But you're right, yeah, it does seem to be the lower ones. But XLM Stellar was on here last week, and I traded that and had some success with it, and that's a bigger cap coin. You'll see I've seen Link and YFI and some of those on here too, some of the more volatile of the blue chips. So all right, and then Kim has got a question. He's asking me to quickly run through how you use the MACD. All right, let's look at a MACD. All right, so this is the MACD down here. I'm gonna double click and make it bigger. There's a few strategies that I've learned involving the MACD. iCoinPro essentially just teaches, they have a couple, but the one I'm just looking for this as a validator of my decision. So I like to see the blue crossing the orange on a dip trade below this series of candles here called the histogram. If I'm looking at a squeeze trade that's above the SMA line, something like this, like see how these candles are trending up above the SMA line, and see how the MACD crosses and it's below the histogram. That's a good indicator. I like that. So that tells me it hasn't exhausted its move yet because it's still below the histogram. With the MACD crossing the orange line, that tells me that the momentum is good. So that's how I use there is a strategy called the MACD mover, but it belongs to a specific day trading program. I probably shouldn't share it here, but it's pretty simple, and you're just looking for these type of movements, and then day trading the hell out of them. But you have to sit in front of your computer all day, and I don't like to do that. So that's why I show you guys alerts. So set an alert, go do something else. All right, Kim, did I cover the MACD okay, or did you have any questions on that?
That was great, thanks, CJ. Right. Just quickly though, with regards to the line crossing over, do you mean if it crosses anyway from wherever it was, or is there a specific blue from the bottom up, or any particular way?
If you get some distance between, when the MACD opens up like this, and it's getting away from the orange line, that shows the more distance between these two, the more momentum there is. So that's probably the only. It doesn't really matter where it is. Well, it sort of matters.
I actually mean, when I say matters, I mean if the blue's below and crosses up over the yellow, or vice versa. Is there any importance in that?
Well, the blue crossing over the yellow or orange or whatever color this is a sign of bullish. That's a bullish sign. And when the, you know, when the orange crosses the blue, that's usually a bearish sign. So you want this is what you want. You want your blue crossing here and getting some distance, some width from the orange line, and that's ideal. So.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, Eric is asking, any hope for ENJ? It seems to make the list most nights, but is dying. Eric, I feel your pain. I have I have a swing trade on ENJ. I think Bryce recommended it, and I liked what I saw a couple of weeks ago, and it got hammered by this Bitcoin drop really badly. Let's look at ENJ. Actually, I need to see how much time we've got. Oh, we're beyond an hour. Dadgummit.
Do you think that's because there's a lot of new people in that aren't necessarily committed to the coin itself? They just like what it's there for video gamers and stuff.
No idea. I know it has something to do with that world, but I'm not that familiar with ENJ and what it does. Sounds like you know more about it than I do. But I've traded it many times, usually with success. But yeah, I was looking at it here. I even drew a trend line and it pumped over it, and then unfortunately, I think I got it around here. Yeah, 270s where I bought it, and I'm way down on that. But again, you know, with the swing trade, I don't necessarily have to cash out right away, and hopefully it'll come back. But I'm not sure why it's. Well, it's probably maybe a little bit worse than what some of the other coins have had happen to them because of Bitcoin. So it's hard to separate why this one is dumped as hard as it has. 34%. All right, so, all right, Jim is heading out. Well, guys, we're already over an hour. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording here. And I'll hang around for some additional questions. So for those of you watching on video, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week on the Monday night Zoom. And remember, I'm starting a Friday afternoon Zoom that's going to be focused on Altcoin Alert only. So bring your trades and your questions regarding Altcoin Alert only for the Friday afternoon Zoom. It'll be at 3 p.m. Pacific. I'll send out emails to my list, and we'll see you then.